me. That requires a response. So I brought my dog with me. I thought it would be really cool. You guys like have 4 right outside, so it's not even that cool. Hey. So I'm Rick, and this is my service dog Amos. I've had Amos for a little over 2 years now. He was trained in prison, so he was actually trained by the inmates in the prison. He does some pretty cool things. For me, like what he can do for me physically, he can go anywhere I go. So airplane, he rides right with me. He can go in any hotel, any restaurant. So that's pretty cool. He's my buddy. That's his main purpose, really. He's a companion. But some of the things he does for me is he can pick things up off the ground if I drop them. So that's one of the biggest things he can do for me physically. Some of the cool things he knows, Amos, heel. Good boy. Sit. I didn't bring any treats with him, so we'll see if he does this or not. Hey, Amos. Salute. Yeah, that's not salute. Salute. Hey. Salute. Amos. Salute. You want a treat? Salute. Oh my God. Why do you have to embarrass me? You're embarrassing. Salute. Hey, salute. Amos, salute. There you go. No, first of all, that was like a half salute. Amos, sit. Hey, who's your daddy? Who? And then we'll see if he'll do this. Since he was trained in prison, Amos, all right, hang on. Assume the position. Amos, hang on, right here. Assume the position. They taught him to assume the position. What are you doing? So they taught him to assume the position, the inmate did. And he wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to. What are you looking for?
Well, this is also our lunchroom, so he's probably eating his treats.
Hey, stop. Yes, you can't get through that door. So, like me, he is food driven. He's everything for food. So yeah, so I've had him a little over 2 years now, and he's been really good for me. He was trained for troops with PTSD. I don't know how many of you know what PTSD is, anyone? PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of guys who come back from the wars end up with PTSD, and it's basically, a lot of them are paranoid, and like a lot of guys with PTSD wouldn't be standing in this room right now, or even sitting in this room, because they can't deal with the crowd. They have nightmares, stuff like that, but the dogs are there to comfort them in those situations. So, luckily I don't have PTSD. So he's used it for different things. Alright, enough of you. You're done. Let's see if I can get you to lay down and stay. Hey, down. Yeah, down. Good boy. Let's see how long he'll stay there for. I've got about 5 minutes. Stay. Alright, so this is going to be a little bit informal. I'm going to tell my story real quick, and then I really want like a discussion. So I want you guys to ask questions. If you guys don't ask questions, I'll ask you some questions. We'll create questions. We'll figure it out somehow. So I graduated high school in 2000 from a school up in New York, real small school. Well, I mean, you guys are a pretty small school, so I can't really say a really small school. We had about 130 graduating class my senior year, and I wasn't the best student, but it was because I chose to be not the best student. I went to school and I love my sports. I was captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team. But school itself, I really didn't have a care for. I didn't focus on it, and it was because I chose not to. It wasn't because I wasn't a smart person, it was because I chose not to do well. And there's a lot of things in life that are choices, and that's one of the choices that I regret making, was not choosing to do well in something that I had full potential to do well in. So I barely graduated. When I actually went to graduation, I didn't even know if I was getting my diploma, because I was that close. My parents were really happy with that. No. They were really angry with me. So I did graduate, thankfully. After I graduated for 4 years, I really didn't know what I was doing, what I wanted to do. I worked in a lot of restaurants. I tried a bunch of different things. I moved to Florida for 2 weeks. Yeah, that was a failed move. I had no money, no job. It was just a mess. So after that, I moved back home and I knew I wasn't going anywhere. So I needed some kind of direction. So that day, well actually it was actually Easter of 2004, and I was at my grandmother's house. And on the coffee table, there was an article, and on the front page it said, on the front page of the newspaper it said, first Southern Tier soldier killed in Iraq. And the Southern Tier is the area where I'm from, in New York. And it was the picture of the soldier was somebody I had known from a nearby school who was a wrestler. So I read the article, and that moment I knew I was going to join the military. And one of the reasons was because I realized that this guy had given everything for his country. And I hadn't given anything for my country at that point. But more importantly, I hadn't given anything for myself. I hadn't done anything to better myself. And if I'm not going to better myself, I can't better other people. So that was the first step in making the decision to better myself so I can help others later on. That was just one of the reasons, but that was the main reason I did join. The next day I went down, signed the papers, and joined the Army. I went to Iraq in December of 2005, and 9 months later, in September of 2006, I was hit with an IED. We were in a Bradley. Anyone know what a Bradley is?
Tank?
Yeah, it's like a small tank, basically. Any of you guys looking to go in the military? No? No?
No.
Hey, there we go. I knew that. I was just seeing if you were going to respond. Put you on the spot. Sorry. September 2006, I went to Iraq, and I was in my Bradley, it's a small tank, and we were hit with an IED. An IED is an improvised explosive device. It's basically a small bomb that is homemade. And they buried it under the ground. We ran over it, and it hit our fuel cell. As it hit our fuel cell, I covered myself in fuel first, and then I was engulfed in flames. And I knew I needed to get out of the vehicle, but I didn't really know how to get out because my face was on fire. So the fire was actually covering my eyes. I couldn't see anything. I knew I needed to get on top of the vehicle. That day I had the hatch above me open. Normally I wouldn't have the hatch open because in case of a chemical attack, it's always supposed to be closed. That day I had it open. So I got up the top of the vehicle, stood on top, again, didn't know how to get off the vehicle because my face was on fire, I couldn't see anything. So I just jumped. I basically made a leap of faith. And when I jumped, I landed on the ground and I broke my leg. And when I broke my leg, it severed an artery. And that's why I ended up with the prosthetic. So I got a prosthetic leg below the knee. I'll show you a little bit of it. There you go. So I got a cool prosthetic leg now. Part robot. It's not that bad actually. Doesn't make me jump higher or anything like that. So I landed on the ground, I broke my leg, and I rolled around on the ground. What do you do when you're on fire?
Stop,
drop, and roll. Well, I couldn't put the fire out. All I was doing was rolling around in dead grass and dust, so the fire wouldn't go out. Eventually, I laid on my back and I gave up. I gave up one of the most important things a person can have in life, and that's hope. To me, hope stands for, hold on, possibilities exist. That day I gave up on those possibilities because I said, you know what, I didn't feel any pain, I'm okay with dying. I'm okay with leaving this world right now. And then, thankfully, I only gave up that hope for a second. I ended up rolling, and I fell into a canal. And the canal put the fire out. It also gave me funguses on my hands, that's why my hands are as bad as they are. And it gave me cholera in my lungs. It was pretty crazy what I ended up with. But eventually 2 of my buddies found me in the canal, carried me out, took me to where the helicopter was going to pick me up. And we're laying there, or I was laying there, and